Yes guys, welcome back to the FPL Fan Show. My name is FPL Nacho and of course this is going to be my team reveal ahead of Game Week 9 off the back of that Romelu Lukaku injury news. I am currently an owner, so I'm going to be discussing my plans and thoughts going into this weekend of what to do with the Chelsea forward. So as always guys, if you want to support the channel, be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and with more videos dropping this week, be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing. So without further ado guys, let's get started. Okay guys, so here is my current team ahead of Game Week 9. Bit of a team reveal here, and as I mentioned, this is my wildcard team that I had in Game Week 8. Obviously the plan was to roll the free transfer, but with injuries to Saka and now this long-term injury potentially to Romelu Lukaku, it's meaning that I might have to use my free transfer, which is so frustrating because I really wanted to roll that free transfer with 2 free transfers going into Game Week 10 with a preparation towards attacking those Tottenham players. So what are my thoughts right now? Well, first and foremost, defence and goalkeeper I am happy with. Now, as I mentioned, I took a bit of a punt on Reece James thinking that he was going to come into the Chelsea team in that Brentford game. The thoughts was that I didn't think that the back three that played were going to be the back three. I thought Reece James would play right wing back with Azpilicueta as a right centre back. Now, it's worth mentioning, Azpilicueta has started the last 4 league matches and played 90 minutes and also played 2 90-minute fixtures for Spain in the Nations League. So my assumption is that Reece James is going to start against Norwich and Azpilicueta is likely to be benched in this fixture. Now, of course, that's no insider information, guys. That's just some thoughts that I have right now. But it's worth noting that that is my current thought process. So that is why I currently have Reece James as him starting over Livramento. Now, this one's super close because Livramento has provided unbelievable value right now. And I really do think if you own Livramento, he should be causing you a headache because he definitely should be vying for a starting place in your team. But right now, with the Man City defence, with the attacking potential of Alexander-Arnold and this brilliant home fixture for Reece James, I feel like it's too difficult for me to pass up on any of those 4. That's why Livramento is going to be my first benching option. Now, with the midfield, guys, as I mentioned, I was totally happy with this midfield going into Game Week 9 until that Saka injury. Now, it's worth noting that he was pictured in training, so there is a good chance that he could be available for Arsenal in this game. And I think it's a fixture that I really would like him to be available in. Aston Villa can see chances. I don't think they're necessarily the best defensively, even though they have, of course, Martinez in goal, who is always capable of producing a phenomenal performance. But I really would like Saka to start in this game, so hopefully we'll get a bit of information before that Friday deadline. And remember guys, it is a Friday deadline. Obviously Salah, Rafinha and Mbeumo, I'm more than happy to start all 3 of those players. And moving into the front line, Ivan Toney, of course I brought him in for the long term, think he could do very well against Leicester in that home fixture. And Antonio didn't play any minutes in the Europa League, happy days, and a really nice fixture against Tottenham, who of course still aren't defensively sound under Nuno. So I really do think that there are returns available for Antonio in this fixture. But of course guys, when you look down at, oh guys, it's worth noting, sorry, goalkeeper situation right now. Now I currently have Ben Foster in goal. Now this is one of those scenarios right now where I'm just very confident that Man City are going to beat Brighton. Now I don't think it's going to be by much. I think it might be a 1-0 Man City, but I think if there is a chance for someone to keep a clean sheet, it is going to be Ben Foster. Now, it's worth noting, I need to see whether Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are available. If they are, that really doesn't make me confident about a Ben Foster clean sheet with Watford, but they really do need a reaction and a bounce back. And with Ben Foster, he's either going to play 90 minutes or he's going to play 0 minutes. So right now, my thought process is in starting Ben Foster, benching Sanchez, but it is worth noting, guys, for anyone who's a Brighton owner, defensively, they are up there in the top 5 underlying defensive stats. Do not be surprised if they do shut up shop against Man City, but right now, I am vying towards the Ben Foster pick. So, guys, we're moving on to the main attraction here, and that, of course, is going to be the big red flag I have in the bottom of that screen in Romelu Lukaku. So, like many managers right now, I brought in Romelu Lukaku in my wildcard team in the assumption I was going to hold him for this amazing Norwich home fixture and the following fixtures, which look really good for him. However, at his price point and currently underperforming as we know, I really don't think I can hold on to Romelu Lukaku, although I would love to, just because of him taking up so much of that price in the squad. And with Game Week 9, I really want to be having all that money invested into a player that could return this game week. So that is why I am likely to use my free transfer on selling Romelu Lukaku. So using Fantasy Football Fix with their data and their graphics, I'm going to be looking at some potential replacements for Romelu Lukaku. Right guys, so here we have a comparison between Jamie Vardy and Harry Kane, two of the premium options that I'm currently considering for my fantasy team. And of course, I'm using the player heat maps over on fantasyfootballfix.com, link in the bio of course. So as I mentioned guys, I have 1.2 million in the team, so I can easily go up into Harry Kane. That is not an issue at all. And of course, I can go down into Jamie Vardy. So both of these are viable options, and I do not have to bust the bank or use an additional transfer to afford Harry Kane into my team. So as we mentioned before, Jamie Vardy is currently the leading FPL forward in the game with 56 points, and Harry Kane with only 21 points. Now, it's worth noting that, of course, Harry Kane has played a little bit less minutes than Jamie Vardy, but really not enough of a gap to justify the discrepancy between the 2 points here. And as we can see here, Jamie Vardy currently averaging 7 points per game in comparison to Harry Kane's 3 points per game. And what I've done here is looked at the data from game week 1 up into game week 8, just to get a bit of an understanding on how both players are operating right now and whether Harry Kane can justify the additional funds needed to afford him over Jamie Vardy, because it is about 1.4 million difference here. So we need to make sure that there's actually justifiable proof to afford that with Harry Kane. So when we come down here into the touch maps, first and foremost, now it's worth mentioning with the touch maps, Harry Kane is a very difficult player to judge right now because of his influence in the Spurs team. He's been doing it for the last few years now, dropping deep into the middle third of the pitch, linking up play with the midfield and the forward line, and bringing players into the game. So when we see his touch map on the right hand side here, it's fully expected that he's getting plenty of touches in that middle third and less touches within the box, but still a decent amount. Jamie Vardy, on the other hand, I know he's got a big red on that bloody centre spot, but predominant of his touches are coming within the box, which is fully expected with the playing style that he has. Whoever his strike partner is, whether it's Nacho, whether he plays in a 2 or a 3 with Maddison, he is the guy that is always on the last man, looking to get in behind the defence. So that is why where his touch map is right now, it is fully expected from Jamie Vardy. And when we come down here into the actual shots and the underlying stats, we can see that shot volume is still great for Jamie Vardy, 23 shots in comparison to Harry Kane's 17. And interestingly, I've mentioned about Harry Kane being the one that links up the Spurs team, but Vardy's actually had 9 attempted assists in comparison to Harry Kane's 7. So showing that Vardy still has a bit more of a well-rounded asset than some managers might think, isn't just a goal-scoring machine as we come to expect. Now, when I come down here, I really want to look at the underlying stats in detail for both players. And as I mentioned, Vardy has played more minutes, but I don't believe that it is a big enough gulf in minutes to really say that we cannot compare the two players. So, of course, the biggest one here, guys, is 7 goals for Jamie Vardy in comparison to 1 of Harry Kane. Now, it's worth noting as well, usually when you compare two players, you can make the argument that one has penalties and free kicks and the other doesn't. This really isn't the case. Both are penalty takers for their respective clubs, so that doesn't throw anything into skewing the data. And the expected goals wise, 3.72 for Jamie Vardy in comparison to 2.03 for Harry Kane. So how I read into this, as expected, Jamie Vardy is outperforming his underlying stats, but he always does do this being such a clinical finisher. Harry Kane, on the other hand, looks a bit unlucky. He should have had maybe more goals than he has had right now, looking at the underlying stats. And that suggests to me that there is potential for him over the coming game weeks to be returning. But of course, remember, guys, past performance doesn't indicate future returns. That is the big one, guys. And as we mentioned, a bit more of the same stuff, really. Shots on target, 11 to 9, and shots in the box is the big one here. 21 for Jamie Vardy in comparison to 8 for Harry Kane. So that really does show that when Jamie Vardy is getting into his positions, they are in really good goal-scoring areas. Now, of course, with shots in the box, doesn't mean that they're always high XG chances. They could be on the touchline of the box. But all in all, guys, if you're having shots in the box predominantly, that should lead to a higher XG, normally the amount of time, of course. So what are we reading from this data here right now, guys? When we just come down one last time to the average statistics per 90 minutes, again, Jamie Vardy absolutely dominates in most areas here against Harry Kane. Shots in the box, goals, expected goals, shots, all in Jamie Vardy's favour. So what are my current thoughts on a Lukaku replacement? Well, first and foremost, I really wouldn't rule out, if you don't already own the likes of Ivan Toney, going down into somebody like that. And the reason being for that is because of the additional funds that it will free up for you to potentially upgrade one of your midfielders into the likes of Spurs' Son, who I really do think is a brilliant option going forward, but unfortunately not an option for me right now in my team. So really it does look like I want to be doing a premium slot in my team and continuing that going forward. And right now I really can't justify going Harry Kane over Jamie Vardy. So as we speak right now, in time of recording, my current thought process is going to be Lukaku to Jamie Vardy, which will free up an additional 1 million into my team, which will give me 2.2 million, in the hope that in the future game weeks I might be able to use an additional transfer to upgrade the likes of Saka into Spurs' Son ahead of game week 12. So that is my loose plan right now, guys. And if I had to put somebody as my Lukaku replacement, it right now would be Jamie Vardy.
Correct, Captain.
Right, guys, time for correct captain. So who would I have as my captain ahead of game week 9? So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to give you my top 3 picks ahead of game week 9 and how I rank them and some thought process behind it. So third place is going to go to Kai Havertz. Now, this one is going to be a bit of an isolated pick because not necessarily a lot of managers do own Kai Havertz. And if you do own him, it probably is because of your game week 9 transfer off the back of that Romelu Lukaku injury news. Now, why would I captain Kai Havertz and why is he's my third pick? Of course, it is due down to that Norwich home fixture. It's fully expected for Kai Havertz to play as that false 9, number 9 in this Chelsea team. And when they are playing one of the worst teams in the league, it is only right that he becomes a captaincy option this game week. Now, Tuchel last season operated Kai Havertz as a false 9 and as a striker at the back end of last season. And that's where Havertz started to really flourish in the Chelsea team before the arrival of Romelu Lukaku. Now, basing stats off the back of last season is very difficult because of different formation changes, different teams, different players into this Chelsea team. So I don't want to be looking back at the stats from last season, but what was clear was that Havertz did adapt to Tuchel's methods as a striker. And for this one particular game week in isolation, I think if you do own Kai Havertz as a differential and you're in a rank where you're not too comfortable with, I think this is a brilliant opportunity to potentially put that captaincy on him and really double down on him as a differential option this game week. Okay, so my number 2 pick is going to go to Jamie Vardy. Now, it's only right that I include him in this captaincy pick after blowing the trumpet for him, of course, as my potential Lukaku replacement. Now, I really do think that Vardy versus Kane for captaincy this game week is very close. I've touched on Brentford being a top 5 underlying defensive team. They do look brilliant at home. And West Ham actually not being as defensively sound as we come to think under a David Moyes team, conceding a few chances. And I really do think that Tottenham are going to get these chances against a West Ham team that have, of course, played in the Europa League. Tottenham have rested quite a few of their big players in their Europa League game, although they did lose 1-0. So the reason I think Jamie Vardy is still a really good asset against Brentford is just because of the form that he is in. When we do make a decision on captaincy, we look at a few things. We look at current form, we look at the fixtures, and we look at the general team that are playing. And I really do think that although the team they're playing is a difficult fixture, I think Leicester are in a feel-good mood right now off the back of that 4-2 victory against Man United. And importantly, Jamie Vardy is in excellent form and actually showing really good underlying stats. And sometimes you don't have to overthink the captaincy decision. When somebody like Romelu Lukaku, such an obvious pick, becomes ruled out, we look at alternatives. And I really do think that Jamie Vardy ticks most of the boxes in terms of an informed player. And I really do think that this Leicester team could cause problems against this Brentford side. So Jamie Vardy is going to be my second choice for correct captain this game week. And last up, my number 1 spot is going to go to, of course, Mohamed Salah. Now, realistically, guys, the guy is the best player in the league right now, arguably in the world as we speak. And sometimes you just don't have to overthink a captaincy option. Now, a lot of people spoke about perma captain Salah. I really don't think that FPL is that easy, unfortunately, because he will be finding times where he's going to dip in and out of form. And the form that he's in right now, unfortunately, is not sustainable. Otherwise, he'll be breaking records left, right and centre. But what I have seen from this Man United team is that there's going to be chances for Mo Salah in this game. First and foremost, he's in brilliant form. The underlying stats suggest that he's going to continue this form into this game week. And what I've seen with the likes of Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire on that left-handed side of that Man United defence, you only have to watch back to that Champions League game against Atlanta. I really do think that there's great potential for Mo Salah to get further returns. So while Man United on paper, away at Old Trafford, is a tricky game, we have to remember, again, when we look back at the things like fixture, player and team that they're playing in, Liverpool are in great form right now and they really do look like they're building in confidence week on week. and Salah as a player is in unbelievable form. And when you have the best player in the league playing against a dodgy defence in the likes of Man United, when there aren't any other available options that you have in your squad, I think just captain Mo Salah to save yourself any further captaincy headaches is the #1 pick this game week. Right guys, last up on this video, we're going to be looking at the hot topics, and these are questions that have been sent in from you guys ahead of this game week. And first up guys, we have to kick it off with FPL Prince. Now of course guys, the OGs of FPL Fan Show will know FPL Prince, co-host of the show. Fortunately right now we're on work commitments, but we'll hopefully be back in the future where we can reunite together once again. I can only dream. But great for FPL Prince to get involved in this video, and he has asked, is it now time to drop Antonio, and is it worth bringing Son in? So I think first and foremost with the likes of Antonio, again, the fixtures coming up for Antonio are very tricky. Really not great options when we do look at them on paper. First and foremost, a home fixture against Spurs in game week 9. But when we look historically at Antonio, he really is a player that once he is fit, he has the track record to score against any team within the league. And I think West Ham are a side right now that are established in the Premier League team, in the Premier League. And I really do think that they can put up a game against any team. So first and foremost, I think West Ham have the potential in any game to beat any team. That kind of crosses the first hurdle. And secondly, Antonio, in the form that he's in right now, I know he's blanked 1 or 2 game weeks previously, but the underlying stats are still there for him. He's still the talisman in the side. And I also have to argue, who would you go to from Antonio? Now, a lot of managers have value built up in Antonio, so moving him away would likely mean that you can't go back to him because of the price difference that you'll be selling him at. And with the likes of Calvert-Lewin still unavailable, going down into Tony would definitely be a viable option going forward. But I think if you owned Antonio from game week 1 onwards, I would not be worried about the fixtures coming up due to his track record against the big teams. I think he can score against anybody, so he is a hold for me in the coming game weeks. And of course, if he starts to blank, underlying stats dissipate, and the team struggle, then we can look at viable alternatives in the future game weeks. And asking, is it worth going for Son? Now, right now, if I had to pick between Harry Kane or Son, then I definitely would go for Son. And the reason being is, first and foremost, the midfield department, I'm not too sold on much in that area. Now, as we mentioned, Mo Salah being the premium in everybody's side, I really do think Sadio Mane is an excellent move as well. But owning both Mane and Salah is a little bit of a difficult structure to have in your team because you have all your eggs in that Liverpool premium basket. So that's why I really like Son, because the players between 7 million and that 12 million bracket, I really only think Son fits into that category. And while he's a little bit cheaper than Salah, it still gives you funds available to invest in the team. And with the fixtures coming up, I know everybody's been pinpointing game week 12 onwards as the time to target Son, but we only have to look at the recent returns that he's had. He's the sort of player that can score against any side, and I really think if you had the funds available or 2 free transfers, which I know FPL Prince does have, I wouldn't hesitate on bringing in Son this game week and holding him for the next potentially 8 game weeks and seeing him, as he always does, consistently return week in, week out. Right, next question in is from Alex, and he has asked what to do with Saka. Don't have enough budget to upgrade to the likes of Phil Foden. Should he wait until next week when he has 2 free transfers, or make the swap now? So I think it's worth noting, guys, that of course Saka has been picture training with the squad, but there's no confirmation right now that he is going to be available in the team. So with this Friday deadline and Arsenal playing on Friday, I think Saka is a player that you're potentially looking to transfer out. I would wait until the last minute to hopefully get as much information as possible, potentially some team leaks or photos of the squad in the few hours before that deadline. So what to do with Saka? I really do think that if you brought Saka in, I would look at your bench first and foremost. Can your bench survive Saka potentially not featuring at all? Or if you need to bench him, I think is the better move. And the reason being is because of those 2 free transfers that are going to give your squad in the coming game weeks. With Saka, I really need to look at the possible replacements that you're looking to bring in. Now, as you mentioned, you can't go up to the likes of Phil Foden. So if you don't have Rafinha right now, I think Saka to Rafinha is a justified move. But other than Rafinha and maybe the likes of Mbeumo at Brentford, I think holding Saka is probably the best move. And then in game week 10, you have 2 free transfers available, and then you can readjust and see, first and foremost, the injury status of Saka, and secondly, what direction you want to take the team in. With 2 free transfers, it gives the squad a lot more structure and flexibility to move in different directions. So for me right now, Rafinha would be my replacement. Otherwise, I would roll the free transfer. Okay, next up we have a great question from Ray who's asked, have I ever been mistaken as Nacho Monreal? Now, this is definitely something that I did not realise I looked like until we started live streaming back in the COVID days, and I kept getting comments saying, are you Nacho Monreal? Nacho Monreal? And I had never seen it until I whipped up those photos on Google. Could not believe my eyes. I've sent off DNA tests. I'm waiting back for the results. He could be my dad. I'm not too sure. But have I ever had it in public? I definitely have not had it. One guy I definitely have is Peter Crouch. This is somebody I've had on a regular basis. And being 6'2" really doesn't help my cause either. Gangly, yeah, it doesn't go in my favour at all. The big teeth. So if I had to be compared to anybody in public, it's been Peter Crouch every day. Okay, and last up, we have a question from Yusni who said, getting rid of Alonso, which Chelsea defender to target? Now, first and foremost, I really do feel for Alonso owners because the headache that we knew was coming has arrived. Ben Chilwell getting minutes and also getting minutes in the Malmo game in the Champions League fixture suggests to me that if Alonso played in the Champions League, that would be a rotating position where he plays in the easier fixtures and Ben Chilwell in the league games. But the fact that Ben Chilwell played in the Champions League game suggests to me that he is the first choice left wing back. Of course, I don't have any information there, so that isn't concrete evidence, but that is my thought process there. What I would do with Alonso right now is probably sell. Now, when you do sell, I think you need to understand that there are going to be game weeks where he does play and he does haul, but at his price point, you can't hold an asset which is potentially going to play, potentially isn't going to play. I think moving to Chilwell is going to cause the same issues going forward, and with Reece James still not being fully established as fully fit or number one in the Chelsea defence, although I think he is the best Chelsea player once all available, I just couldn't risk going for Reece James. So I really do think now that he's returned from injury, Rudiger is the go-to guy. Now, I know he's a bit of a boring pick, but you're going to get guaranteed game time in that Chelsea defence. And with the coming fixtures coming up, I know you might not get all the attacking returns from the likes of Chilwell or Alonso, but you're going to get that guaranteed minutes, which everybody craves for in that Chelsea defence. So for me, Rudiger would be the number one Chelsea replacement. Right guys, that is going to wrap up today's team selection video ahead of game week 9. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this one, and of course it is so close to the FPL deadline tonight, 6:30. You do not want to be missing that one, so be sure you have your teams locked in. Once you finish the video, get over to that FPL app and make sure you confirm your teams and get that captaincy on the player you want just to be safe. And as always guys, I want to say a massive shout out for tuning into this video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and with more videos dropping throughout the weeks, don't want to be missing a thing. So I really do wish you guys to hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything at all. So guys, have a great game week. I hope all your arrows are green, and I will see you guys next week for a team review of the previous game week and some underlying stats. So have a great one guys, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.